Imagine walking through a North American forest thousands of years ago. The trees are dense, the air is cold, and something enormous is moving between them. You hear branches snap. Then you see it. A massive animal nearly 10 feet tall at the shoulder, carrying long, curved tusks and weighing several tons. But this isn't a mammoth. It's the American mastodon, Mammut Americanum, one of the most fascinating giants of prehistoric North America. And here's what makes it remarkable. This animal is a distant relative of modern elephants, but its lifestyle is very different. While mammoths were often adapted to open landscapes and grazing, mastodons were built for life among forests and wetlands. Their teeth reveal the difference. Instead of broad, grinding surfaces, mastodon molars have distinctive pointed cusps, perfectly suited for crushing leaves, twigs, shrubs, and other woody vegetation. For millions of years, mastodons lived across North America. They survived dramatic changes in climate and landscape. Then, near the end of the Ice Age, they vanished. But their fossils remain. And one of the most extraordinary discoveries began with enormous bones found on a farm in New York. That discovery would help change how people understood prehistoric life forever. In 1798, something extraordinary happened near Newburgh, New York. Workers digging on a farm discovered enormous bones buried in a watery pit. These weren't the remains of an ordinary animal. The bones were huge, unfamiliar, and unlike anything living in North America. News of the discovery spread quickly. Then came Charles Willson Peale, a painter, naturalist, and museum founder. In August 1801, Peale organized an excavation to recover the skeleton. Imagine the scene. Mud surrounds the enormous bones. Workers carefully expose them piece by piece. The skull and tusks emerge from the earth, revealing an animal that must have been unbelievably large. But recovering the skeleton wasn't easy. Some bones were damaged or lost. The tusks broke apart. The lower jaw and several ribs never made it out of the excavation. Still, enough survived. Peale reconstructed the skeleton for public display. Missing sections were replaced, including some wooden replicas, supported by an iron framework. And this wasn't just a strange collection of bones. It was evidence that an enormous creature had once walked across America. The scientific name changed as researchers learned more. Robert Kerr named the species in 1792, originally calling it Elephas Americanum. Later, scientists placed it in the genus Mammut. The mystery was becoming a science. Now look closely at the mastodon's teeth. This is where the animal's lifestyle becomes almost impossible to miss. An American mastodon could reach roughly 3 meters, or about 9.8 feet, at the shoulder. That's taller than most people can imagine standing beside. Its body was built on an enormous scale, with powerful legs, a long trunk, and large tusks. But size alone doesn't explain how this giant survived. Its teeth do. Mastodon molars contain rows of distinctive, pointed cusps. These structures helped the animal crush and process tough vegetation. Think about eating nothing but leaves, branches, and woody plants. Your teeth would need to handle material that's far tougher than a soft piece of fruit. And that's exactly what these teeth were designed to do. A mastodon wasn't simply a hairy elephant wandering through grasslands. It was primarily a browser, moving through forests and wetlands while feeding on leaves, twigs, shrubs, and other vegetation. Scientists can even examine tooth wear and surrounding fossil evidence to reconstruct parts of its diet and environment. Then, there are the tusks. Both males and females had them, although males generally developed larger tusks. These enormous structures could help interact with the environment, and may also have played a role in competition between males. Every part of the animal tells us something. Now imagine the world beneath those mastodon feet. This wasn't a frozen wasteland everywhere. Across much of North America, mastodons moved through forests, wetlands, and changing landscapes during the Pleistocene. They lived through repeated shifts in climate, as glaciers advanced and retreated. And that matters because mastodons weren't isolated animals. Their fossils can appear alongside plants, other animals, and sediments that help scientists reconstruct ancient environments. A single bone gives us a clue. An entire fossil site can tell us a story. Scientists can examine pollen and plant remains to understand what grew nearby. They can study sediment to determine whether the animal lived near a wetland, lake, or forest floor. Even the position of fossils matters. Was the animal buried quickly? Did water move the bones? Were other animals nearby? Every detail can change the reconstruction. And eventually, another species entered this ancient landscape: humans. For a time, people and mastodons shared the same continent. The exact role humans played in mastodon extinction remains debated, because climate change, habitat changes, and human pressure may all have contributed. But the timing is striking. Around 10,500 years ago, American mastodons disappeared from North America. A lineage that had survived for millions of years was suddenly gone, and the forests that once echoed with their footsteps became silent. And this is where the mastodon's story becomes bigger than one extinct animal. Mammut Americanum wasn't a failed elephant. It was a successful giant that survived for millions of years, adapting to changing North American environments. Then the world changed. Climate warmed, habitats shifted, human populations expanded. Other Ice Age giants disappeared too. Scientists still debate exactly how these pressures combined to drive mastodons toward extinction, and that uncertainty matters. The fossil record rarely gives us a simple answer, but the evidence leaves us with something remarkable. A tooth can reveal a diet. A tusk can reveal age, growth, and behavior. Sediment can reveal an ancient landscape. And a skeleton can transform an animal nobody has ever seen alive into something we can almost picture. Today, the American mastodon is gone, but its fossils remain across North America, waiting in museums, rock layers, and the ground beneath our feet. So the next time you hear about mammoths, Remember their forest-dwelling relatives. The mastodon had its own story. It walked beneath ancient trees, raised young, searched for food, and survived a changing world. Then, roughly 10,500 years ago, its footsteps stopped. One of North America's greatest giants disappeared. But the evidence remains. And sometimes, one fossil tooth is enough to bring an entire lost world back to life.